Stand by for mode 1 Charlie 17. Mark, mode 1 Charlie.
And the flight dynamics officer says we look good on all sources, right on the trajectory. Crew will experience maximum G-forces of about 4 Gs at shutdown. Coming up on first stage shutdown. I think we saw them all from here.
Roger, Jack. The thrust is going, all 5 up there. Running good. Roger, 17, you're go.
Elijah Muhammad came and taught us how to eat to live. Master Farad told Elijah Muhammad how to teach us. And your Quran tells you that when the Messiah comes, he will teach you what foods to eat and what foods to store in your houses. The Prophet Muhammad did not teach you that. He gave you foods that were given in the Torah as well for the Jews. But to teach you how to weather the storm of radiation. You got your cell phone? You like your cell phone? Radiation. You put it on your hip. We buried a brother last year, one of the Muslims who had cancer. He said, I used to carry my cell phone right on my belt, and he ended up with cancer of the organs in this area. Johnny Cochran died, cancer of the brain, always taking calls. You're all so busy when you didn't have no damn phone except in your house. You had to wait till you went home. But today you busy, and every 5 minutes you on a phone. More radiation. You can't cook your food no more. You drop it in the microwave, radiation. You sit in front of the television, radiation. You got your iPod, your iPad, your computer, radiation. Go to the airport, come through this machine, radiation. You get a cough, you go get a chest x-ray, radiation. You say, I need a MRI, radiation. I need a CAT scan, radiation. So you're eating radiated foods. But you're eating all kind of times a day. Elijah Muhammad said 1 meal a day. A good meal to give your blood time to build up strength to cast the toxins out of your body. He said, get that bean, that navy bean, that natural bean. The pulse in it will ward off the effects of radiation.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I would like to greet all of you in the greeting words of peace. We say it in the Arabic language of Assalamu alaikum, but it's a prayer of peace that simply means peace be unto you. And today we're going to be talking to Brother Tariq Cardiac Muhammad, and we're going to be talking on the science of the navy bean, one of the most perfect foods on the planet, and also how to boost your immune system, because of course the mainstream media that is controlled by big pharma and Zionist forces. They will tell you to get a shot, but they won't tell you how you can boost and support your immune system. So with that, we're going to bring on our beloved brother, and we're going to get right into this very important conversation. Please tell family, friends, and associates to pull up and take a seat and to hold on, because we're about to get right on into it. All right. And greetings, my brother.
Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Yes. And first, let's go ahead and get a little bit into let the people know a little bit about yourself. You're the founder and chief operating officer of Original Man Scientific.
Right.
You're, of course, Mighty FOI, Fruit in the Nation of Islam. You're a dedicated husband, and you're a scientist, and you're young. You got everything. You got the whole world in your hands. So let us know a little bit about yourself, brother. How old are you, or how young are you?
Yes, sir. First and foremost, it's an honor to be on your platform. I appreciate the invite. As Brother Stephen said, my name is Tariq Muhammad. I'm 26 years old. Biomedical research scientist. Founder and CEO of Original Man Scientific, which is pretty much a Black-owned research and development company. And to kind of paint you a picture of what research and development is, it's pretty much the development of new technologies, new scientific apparatuses, or just pretty much the development of anything that assists in human life. So that's what we do with Original Man Scientific. Biomedical research scientist, by definition, is a scientist who works in a laboratory setting to develop or analyze different types of treatments for human diseases.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yes, sir. Definitely. And so that sets the stage, because the people now understand that you're definitely qualified to go into what we're going to be talking about today, which is taking and maintaining this temple, this body, which the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan says that is greater than even the Kaaba that's in Mecca. It's greater than any temple that is built by the hands of man. This temple is the housing of the spirit of the Creator. And I would love for you to, share with us some amazing facts, if you will, about this body.
Absolutely. Well, facts about the human body, I would say the human body is, and it's crazy because the things that you just mentioned about the human body is exactly what I was going to say about the human body.
Yes, sir.
It's a very powerful machine. It's actually the only organism that pretty much generates all of the things that we need outside of the non-essential amino acids. If we internalize the proper foods at the right times in the right manner, the body will pretty much do everything for itself. It's a very autonomous machine when treated right. So I'm gonna let that set the foundation for the show.
Absolutely, because I think that we can then begin to ask the question that if what you're saying is right, if what you're saying is a fact, right, then why are we as a people suffering physically? You know what I mean? Why are we, for instance, our women, why are they dying in the richest, most powerful country on the earth? Why is the Black woman dying in childbirth, maternal birth, in infant mortality, maternal mortality, and infant mortality? We are dying of heart disease and all of these type of diseases. So help us to understand, why this is the case, since, as you were saying, this temple is so perfect and finely tuned that if we maintained it, we could live for a long extended period of time.
Right. Well, the simplest answer for that, beloved, is simply the food. Our food, the food is a god. It's its own god. If we are not living, if we are not eating and living right, the different things that you just mentioned will prevail. We have to understand that for an enemy to conquer, for someone to conquer their enemy, the best way to go about that is through how they eat. You know, there would be no need for the enemy. Let me put it this way: the enemy's values are put more so in science than it's put into weapons. And what do I mean by that? That our open enemy has a track record of using science like food, medicines to minimize the potential of the Black family. That's a given fact. You can look in any area in history and see what I'm talking about. Now, when it comes to food specifically, let's talk about the genetically modified organism. When our people are fed genetically modified organisms or organisms that have altered genetics, it's easier to force the people to rely on those same foods and also to rely on medication when they become sick from those foods. So when you alter the genes, the enemy doesn't worry about the surface. They like to go deep down in the essence of who you are. When they can control the essence of who you are and what you eat, it becomes easier for them to control you. So that's why you get all these maternal mortality issues with pregnancy, diseases in pregnancy, and diseases in the development of fetuses and embryos, and as well as all chronic diseases like heart disease, diabetes, and even some cancers. This is why we go through these things. It's because they control the essence of what we eat. And when you control the essence of what you eat, they can control the essence of what you do.
And then you have this administration, this government administration called the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. And I remember Dr. Student Minister Ava said that, you know, FDA, food and drug, she said, because food is a drug. Now, as you're saying, you know, you have these genetically modified foods and you have these processed foods that are highly addictive. They're highly addictive and they're filled with hormone. Well, if you can explain some of these hormone inhibitors and bisphenol A and things like that.
Right. Well, one notorious hormone that comes to mind when we're dealing with things that they've put in food that can affect human behavior is growth hormone. Growth hormone, when consumed through food, and it's out of place from its natural source, then growth hormone can become a bioweapon in a sense. You know, you can take the growth hormone and accelerate a woman's menstrual cycle. You can take the growth hormone and cause issues with the pituitary gland and the thyroid gland, which are master glands in the human body. You take those out, you know, it's easier to do things to you. And then you also have issues that can arise with cancer. You know, excess hormones in the body or hormones that are in the body that don't belong there can cause the cells to clump together and die off and become cancerous. You know, so it's a variety of things that can take place when hormones are being cultured or incubated in food for us to eat.
And you know,
and when I say incubated, I'm talking about something being grown in something till its full maturity and then being used for something else.
And you're absolutely right, because, you know, one of the things too, there's a recent news story came out, and this is very serious, talking about the male sperm count in men in America has dropped. And they were saying that the male regenerative organ itself is smaller, is shrinking, if you will, right? I mean, you know, I don't know. Have you ever heard of Dr. Aleem when he talked about the Pottinger cat experiment?
No, sir. I'm not familiar with that.
One of the things that he was saying about these cats is that in the last generation, these cats were dying in childbirth the similar things that we see amongst ourselves, where our children are being born with disease, and that's not natural, that's not normal. But he said that because of this slow process of like frogs boiling in water, we don't recognize that that's not a natural thing.
That's right. That's right. And that goes back to what I was saying about the GMOs. When you can alter genetics in food and in turn give it to a human being, their state of awareness is also affected as well. Their level of understanding, their ability to discern information becomes obstructed, or it's altered as well. So we have to understand that like I was saying before, the enemy doesn't waste time with the surface. He likes to go deep down to the root, to the thing that controls everything. If he can get to that, then it doesn't really matter, what you say, as long as I can give you this to eat, you do my bidding. So our understanding of science itself and our discernment from what's good and what's bad becomes a problem when we're eating the foods that our enemy gives to us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's go ahead and get on into it. One of the things that we're coming off of, the basis of our conversation, is this powerful book. I'm trying to get the light to not reflect on it. How to Eat to Live. This beautiful book from God in person. Now, what book do you know of that you can purchase at a store, at a bookstore, that has on the title From God in Person? That's powerful right there. Powerful. And not one book, but two books.
Right, two of them. That's right. Those are those books are pretty much what raised me, in my family. The How to Eat to Live books 1 and 2. I studied those more than any science book or any medical book I ever studied, because just like Dr. Keeley, which is one of my close mentors, just like he said, that those two books gave him more value in his practice of medicine than any of the textbooks that he studied in medical school. And it's the same thing for me. Those two books right there, they are the holy grail for me when it comes to science and medicine.
Right. And really, when you look at it, most people would say maybe that these are, the master dietitian books, right? But in truth, these right here in today's time, this is a survival guide. This is the same thing. This is the same. You could put this book up there with the books that teach you how to prepare for a natural disaster. Because it is a disaster.
Right. I like to say it like this. When I was, we would do, a few years ago, we had a segment here in Richmond, Virginia, Muhammad's Mosque number 24. We had a segment called Muhammad's Medical Minute. And before the pandemic, every Sunday before a lecture, I would teach on how to eat to live. And one of the things I would say is that how to eat to live isn't a diet. It's not a meal plan. It's a life force. It's literally the energy that you need to survive in this type of world. So I don't like, I don't ever want to be found saying that, how to eat to live doesn't work, or how to eat to live is, I don't like that particular diet or that particular way. It's not a way. It's your livelihood. It's what you need. It's your survival, like you said earlier. So we have to take it a little bit more seriously.
Yes, sir. You are absolutely right, especially in this day and time. It's got so many keys to our survival, not just the proper foods to eat, but the time to eat, when to eat, and we're going to get into that. I wanted to ask you first about your profession, cardiovascular biology. Help us to understand what that is.
Absolutely. So I like to make sure that whenever I'm talking about something scientific, I break down the word before I go into anything. Yes. So just to paint you a picture, cardiovascular. Cardio means heart, vascular means blood vessels, and biology, of course, is the study of life. So I'm pretty much studying the biological development and disease of the heart and the blood vessels. So that's pretty much what that is. And in my particular area, I focus, and this is since I want to say high school, my particular area focuses on atherosclerosis. Atherosclerosis is pretty much a buildup of plaque and debris and dead tissues and cells inside the blood vessel, to the point where it blocks off blood flow to any part of the body that it's supplying.
Okay.
Right. So, and
I'll play.
atherosclerosis. Say that again.
I'll
I'm
play
sorry.
this video while you're talking about it. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And atherosclerosis. If you matter of fact, let's go off this video. Well, never mind. I'll just keep going because it's moving a little too fast. But atherosclerosis is, if you look at the word athero means fat-like or gruel substance, and sclerosis means hardening. So, say for example, with one of those red blood vessels you see there, right? The little red lines. If one of those, if one of those things become blocked, like you see right here, it's gaining, it's becoming fibrous, it's gaining a web of fat, platelets, different types of other blood products, and they're all coming together in one area, clumping up to the point where it causes a blockage. And when there's a blockage, you have an attack. Well, if the blockage is in the brain, it's called a stroke. If you have a blockage in the heart, it's called a heart attack. And the same can go for any part of the body. It just the muscle begins to die off, becomes ischemic. Ischemic means it's loss of oxygen. And when something has a loss of oxygen, it begins to die off and get worse. So that's cardiovascular disease in a nutshell.
All right. And so so when we get into, let's go ahead and get right into some of the things. So for instance, the national fast, the Nation of Islam is observing starting today. What's today? Thursday.
Right.
So starting today, we're on a fast, and we fast until Sunday and break that fast on Sunday. Now, this world likes to call it other than, you know, what the Nation of Islam calls it, which is eating one meal a day, or they call it intermittent fasting, or they call it calorie restriction. But tell us, why is it so important for us to fast? What benefit do we get out of it?
Right. So fasting, in a sense, we have no idea how much energy it takes to eat and digest food. That is a very, very strenuous activity on the human body, especially when we're eating the wrong foods, because now the body's trying to figure, okay, what is this? What you got going on here? So with fasting is a break. It's time for the body to heal and do what it has to do to continue to be what it is for you, and that is a machine, a thriving machine, an autonomous machine. The human body can't be autonomous if you eat the wrong foods. If you give it the right foods, you don't have to worry about your body. Your body's good. You just have to eat the right foods. So fasting with the right foods, when you break your fast, is a necessity. It needs to break, and then when you break with the right foods, you're rewarding it for the things that it did for you during the fast.
Excellent. And so let's talk a little bit about the gut bacteria. And my brother, he dropped off for a second. But what we want to do is we want to go ahead and talk about this gut bacteria. And I want you all to know a fact about this, which was pretty heavy. And it says that, let me find this because I think that you all will find this. It says the gut and gut microbes play an important role in our immune system and inflammation by controlling what is passed into the body and what is excreted. It says your gut microbiomes also produce a neurotoxin, a neurotransmitter called gamma amylobutyric acid, or GABA, which helps control, and I'll bring my brother back on. I see he's back on, which helps control, and I'm going over the gut bacteria, the brain, the gut-brain connection. Listen to this. It says, interesting, your gut contains 500 million neurons, which are connected to your brain through nerves in your nervous system. It says that your gut microbes also produce a neurotransmitter called gamma amino butyric acid, or GABA, which helps control feelings of fear and anxiety. So, once again, like you're saying, we are what we eat. But the question is, do we know what we're eating? Because as you're saying, these scientists of death, they have put chemicals in food that is controlling how we think.
Sure.
Can you, go a little bit into that?
Absolutely. One of the things I want to talk about on that is what he mentioned in How to Eat to Live. One of the foods that he asked us or suggested, and in all actuality in today's time is really a command, is to stay away from meat or minimize how much meat that you take in. If you think about what he said in How to Eat to Live, people, if you eat meat makes you a little bit more aggressive than a person that particularly doesn't eat meat. And when you think about that particular amino acid that you talked about, GABA, when you think about what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said about, and I'm trying to keep it as layman as possible. When you think about what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said about the attitude and how we act when we're constant meat eaters, not being shy, being extra aggressive, and just things that remind you of animalistic tendencies. When you think about that acid, it shows you just how the brain and the stomach work together. If I was a constant meat eater, I'm always going to be aggressive. I'm always going to be thinking about something negative. I'm always going to be pessimistic. I'm always going to be starting stuff.
Right.
I'm always just going to have a negative disposition, purely because when I eat and it goes into my stomach and it goes through those hormones, it's all being sent to the brain. Excuse me, not those hormones, those amino acids is all getting sent to the brain. And I'm now acting out what I just ate. You understand? So it's really about, like I was saying earlier, understanding the science, being able to discern. If you are eating the wrong foods at the wrong time, you are not going to be able to understand what's happening to you, which is why it's so hard to resurrect the dead, because of what they've been fed physically and mentally. So these are the different things that we're dealing with when it comes to improper diet and not understanding what exactly is happening to us.
Right. Because we don't really, as a people, we haven't connected that gut is connected to the brain. You know what I mean? Right. And so
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say. Yes, I was just going to say all organs are connected to the brain. Every organ has a set of nerves that is linked to the brain. So whatever foods we eat, and those foods are notorious for affecting that certain part of the body, then we have to understand that once you do it, it's going to come get to your brain, and then you're going to start acting out in a different way. So, one of the reasons why that's the main reason why whenever a messenger is sent, the first thing they teach you is how to eat and when to eat. That's the very first thing, because if that's not taken care of first, it makes no sense on, trying to reform you. You can't. I can't even get you to eat the right foods. So that's why when you join the Nation of Islam and you break away from your enemy's diet, you start seeing the change in the human behavior. Right.
And not only his diet too, but we're also now in this day and age, we're also talking about his medicine, his so-called medicine. So can you break down that the holistic way that we look at the body, as opposed to the Western medicine's way of looking at the body, which is you know what I'm saying, in parts?
Yes, sir. Right. So basically,
Uh-oh, I think my brother may have froze up. So we'll hopefully he'll be able to okay, go right ahead. I see.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
All right. You can hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, sir. The Western medicine is actually fairly young. If you research, Western medicine was formed as a
Uh-oh, it's freezing up just a little bit. Hopefully we can get that unfrozen. You know how the devil likes to mess with things, especially important things like health, because in truth, brothers and sisters, and hopefully he'll get that back on point, that health is wealth. You know what I mean? Health is wealth. So, you know, if you have, I watched this movie, for instance, last night, where this guy, he was dying, and he offered this lady $1 million to help him live. So, you know, health is wealth. And the best thing that we can do for ourselves is that we can be proactive. All right. Yes, sir.
I
Yes,
apologize for
sir.
that.
So,
Clear now?
yes, sir. You're good.
Okay, I just had to change devices real quick. But
Yes, sir.
so basically, if you research the history of Western medicine, you'll find that a lot of the formations of their associations, like say for example, the American Medical Association or any of their associations, you know, most of them were founded as a result of their way of controlling how medicine is practiced on this side of the country.
Mm-hmm.
So if you research that and you study how the country was before that, a lot of the medicines were holistic. And then it started becoming um, westernized in a sense due to the nature of the scientists and the medical professionals that were operating the system at that time. Most of them were white men, and these
Mm-hmm.
white men wanted a certain level of control over the medicines and the health of the people in this country, you know. And even before that, you know, when you're talking about human chattel slavery and the
Mm-hmm.
different types of scientific experiments that were performed on us during that time, you know, all of it, all of that Western medicine originated from torture and rebellion, to torture of black people and rebellion of the sciences that were already here that were
Mm-hmm.
helping people deal with their issues. So, you know, the contrast only comes from who's operating the system. You know, if you really break down some of the medicines that are on the market right now,
Mm-hmm.
if you take away the terrible compounds that they use in them, you know, you would get um, the natural version of that product. For example, right, digitalis.
Mm-hmm.
Digitalis is used for heart failure. If you strip down the compound digitalis, you would find the active ingredient in it, which is from the foxglove plant.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so they know, and they still use natural medicine and holistic medicine in the essence of what they give you, but they
Mm-hmm.
add on the extra stuff, and that extra stuff causes the issues. If
So,
that makes sense.
so you, yeah, yes, sir. It does make sense. The question is why? I mean, is there an obvious answer to it? But why is it that they add on those extra ingredients if the natural ingredient is one that works?
It's a money game. It's a money game.
Mhm.
If I'm a physician, and not all physicians are guilty of wanting to be a participant in this, you know.
Mhm.
But when you're talking about the formation of the American Medical Association and the different things that they did to make the system that we have now, you have to understand that they cannot get wealthy or build a system, a fully functioning system, if you don't keep coming back. So they
Man.
have to, right, they have to make it in such a way where this is something that you have to rely on all the time, so
Hmm.
that you have to keep coming back for checkups, keep coming back for this operation, that operation. It's all a working system. It's
Mm.
this is how they make their money. If they give you
It's
some,
mhm.
mhm.
No, I was just gonna say, big pharma, you see it,
Yeah,
the meme on the web is that they're not in the business of cures.
they're not. They're not. This
Mm.
is a system. This is a game for them. So if I can keep you coming back, then you, like I say, you do my bidding. But if I'm doing How to Live and 1 meal a day and I'm keeping the doctor away, then there's no need for them. Now, of course, there's a need for medication to help you get to the point where you can begin to fast, or that you can begin to do what you have to do. Don't go cold turkey if you're in a bad state. Keep
Right.
taking the medication, but also do How to Live and do the foods that he suggested, so that your medication can enter your body. Be like, oh, I'm not needed here. You
Hmm.
don't need me anymore. You got the right foods. You straight now. Your diabetes is under control. Your blood sugar is under control. Your high blood pressure, your high cholesterol, all that's gone. So you don't need me
Hmm.
anymore. So I'm gonna go over here and go in the trash can. And when you wake up, I'll be gone. So we
Right.
good.
Right.
Just add a little
It's
humor to it.
and that's the way it is. And so today, you have this medicine, and one of the things that we're really suffering from is the inflammation.
Right,
With the coronavirus, the COVID-19 coronavirus, but just inflammation, period, which
right.
they say is an overactive immune system. Is this correct? And can you tell us a little bit more about inflammation?
Are you asking is inflammation? I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, I was asking you about the cause. What causes this inflammation that we see that brings on these issues with these pre-existing conditions that we
Right.
are finding about in the pandemic?
Right, right. So you ever stuffed a bunch of hair down the sink, and it just starts to overflow and get clogged up?
Right.
It's doing that because the hair doesn't belong there.
Mm.
So what you're seeing with inflammation and heart disease, diabetes, cancer, and different things of that nature, what you're seeing is products and substances that don't belong in the body. Let me give you an example. Say
Okay.
for example, where we're dealing with candy, right? I was
Hmm.
working with a patient the other day, and she couldn't figure out why her her diabetic attacks were so much different from a friend of hers. And a friend of hers, now this particular friend of hers eats better than she does. Let me just put it that way. This friend of
Hmm.
hers eats better than she does, and she couldn't understand why she was able to get her diabetes under control and she wasn't. And
Right.
then I looked at the counter, and her shelf had a whole bunch of Starbursts, a whole bunch of Skittles, candy, and things of that nature. Well, I was like, well, there's your reason.
Mm.
You're having you need sugar to keep your insulin up, or in your energy up, but you're using the wrong types of sugars. You're using the
Mm.
wrong types of energy. Your body
Mm.
can't do nothing with Skittles. It's gonna
Right.
see that
Right.
and be like, okay, what's this? All it sees is
Mm.
food coloring. All it sees is white sugar. All it sees
Mm.
is other uh, problems that can cause an issue. So you're
Mhm.
not able to get your diabetes under control, or when you feel weak and you need food, it's not getting under control as fast as hers is because of what you're eating to get it under control.
Right.
But if you eat navy beans, if you eat carrots, if you eat all the foods that are prescribed to us and How to Live, then you can get your diabetes under control, and then eventually get rid of the diabetes itself.
Right. Right.
Your body doesn't recognize those things. It has to work with something it recognizes. It has to be able to work with something it can break down. If it can't
Right.
break it down, it's going to become a problem for you. And if you don't already have a disease, it will become one.
Wow.
So
And
that's
so
the.
I think
Mhm.
I think to understand what you're saying when you talk about the body doesn't recognize it and that it can't break it down, what another meme that we see on the web is we see like a sucker that's been dropped on the ground and ants
Exactly.
going around it.
Right.
But so the question is, beloved. So let's look at it this way. Let's try to understand it. So what you're saying is that the food that we're eating, these processed foods, the body doesn't. You're saying that the body doesn't recognize those foods.
Right. It's becoming they're invaders. And inflammation is only a response to an invasion. Inflammation is a protection mechanism from the body to foreign invaders. So when something's coming in the body that it doesn't recognize, the body sends off, puts up its guard, and that guard is inflammation. So inflammation is good because it's showing you that there's something wrong here and that there's a problem. Inflammation becomes bad when it's a chronic and it's constant. You definitely want inflammation, but you don't want it to the point where it becomes a problem and then it turns into a disease, and now you're dealing with a whole other set of issues. So remember, anything that the body does, whether it's a bump, a scab, runny nose, blinking your eyes, all those things are your body's way of protecting itself. But it becomes a problem when these things happen chronically, and frequently to the point where it's just, you start needing medical attention.
Right. So let's now get into, in this last part, let's go ahead and get into some solutions, because I think that we definitely can begin to understand that the problem is eating these processed foods, these genetically modified. And I can't, the thing is that you don't even want to call them food. You know what I mean? Because it's some type of chemical concoction that they put together in the laboratory that the body doesn't recognize. And once again, you see, this was like 10 years ago where they had a picture of, for instance, a McDonald's hamburger, and then they showed it like 10 years later, and it still looked the same.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's what we're eating, though. That's what we're putting in our body. Something that is a Franken food, is a Frankenstein. It's for Frankenstein. It's not for human beings. But this goes to show us how powerful big pharma is, doesn't it?
That's right. It's all a response to the different things that And Minister Nuri said it best. They're food-like substances, meaning that it's food, which means it's created for us to eat. They created it for us to take it into our bodies. But the like part means that once it enters the body doesn't see it as food. You may see it as food, but the body sees it as an invasion. And when it becomes an invasion, you start seeing your body act out. You start getting bloated, or your blood sugar goes sky high, or your blood pressure. And so this goes into where we are today. When we look on the television, we understand, or many of us understand, that big pharma controls not only what we see on television, but they're controlling what we also see on the social media platforms. Therefore, you have the banning of Brother Rizza and others who want to simply show us an alternative to what big pharma is pushing, which is their vaccine. And I really want, if you can help us to understand, can you help us to understand RNA and how it affects our DNA? Yeah, absolutely. So RNA, and in this particular conversation, we're really talking about mRNA. But
mRNA, yes.
Right. So RNA is simply information that has to be taken. Okay, so I'm gonna paint it like this, and I'm gonna explain it the same way I explained it on my Instagram page a few months ago. Think of it like the cell. Let's take a white blood cell, for example, a common immune cell, right? We're gonna take the common immune cell and think of it as its own library. And that library contains information, right? That information is packaged in a little small thing in the center of that cell called a nucleus. In that nucleus is something called DNA. DNA is the genetic code of our being. It contains the information or the instructions of who you are. So in your DNA, it's showing you the instructions of Brother Stephen. And my DNA is showing the instructions of Brother Tariq. So
in that DNA needs further information or further things to help drive that cell around the body, right? So with the proper food and the proper diet, you can get the substances needed to make the proteins or mRNA or the proteins. Excuse me, let me backtrack. You get the proteins that you need to get to the cell. The cell turns around and creates proteins. Those proteins become RNA. But in order for the RNA to get that extra information to get to the cells, it needs a way of getting there. And that's the messenger RNA. So RNA gets inside the messenger's car, and the messenger RNA drives it up to the nucleus to give it the necessary information it needs for the cell to function. So that's all mRNA is. It's a vehicle transporting RNA to the cell, or that extra information for that cell to function. That makes sense?
Yes, yes. So the question is then, so why is the vaccine, you know, what is the threat, or what is the risk, or what is the side effects of this mRNA vaccine?
Well, right. So scientifically, it's not a vaccine. It can't be a vaccine because first and foremost, it didn't go through the proper clinical trials, the steps in the clinical trial. And then the second reason it can't be a vaccine is because of how it functions. Now, the reason that they're using mRNA in this particular biological substance is because like I was saying before, mRNA transports information to the nucleus, so the cell can do what it has to do. If I can give you my version of RNA and you take that to your cells, then again, I'm doing something to control what your cells do in your body.
Right.
So that's why it's such a problem, because they're taking a biological tool that the body uses to tell the cells what to do, and it's taking those proteins and is using them against the human body. So that's why this mRNA is such a big deal, because of what the mRNA naturally does for you in the body. So like I was saying before in the beginning, the enemy doesn't worry about the surface. He always focuses on underneath, at the root cause of things. So when he can get you at your DNA and at the very minute molecular level, you know, you're like a puppet with strings.
Right. You're definitely in trouble, especially when you don't take into consideration the history of this man, you know, this pale horse, if you will. And so, you know, and we all know that Big Pharma is not, you know, they're not looking to, as we just said, cure anyone. So, you know, I mean, this is crazy just to believe his lies. But once again, since you see their commercials, and their commercials pay for the station to operate, and so they dictate to the stations what can air and what can't air, so you don't even get alternative views like for instance yourself, when we talk about how to, I haven't even heard anybody really talk about how to support your immune system, how to build it up.
Right. They're not interested in showing you how to build your immune system, because as I said before, it's all the money game. You know, if we can provide you with something that will produce us money in exponential amounts, then why would I tell you about your immune? Why would I? Think about it like this. I'm Dr. Anthony Fauci, right? I am the COO or the CEO of Moderna, or the CEO of Pfizer, or any company that's producing vaccines. Why would I? I'm also not just a scientist, I'm also a businessman. Why would I tell you at a national scale in front of millions and millions of people on TV, why would I tell you that this is what you can do to fight your immune system? Why would I tell you about interferon? I'm trying to make money. Why would I jeopardize the structure or the system that I've worked hundreds of years to build in place? No, I'm not doing that. You know, this is just the mind of the devil.
Exactly. And like one individual had told me, because these pharmaceuticals are on the stock market, they legally have to make a profit for their shareholders.
You have to.
And so, like you said, it really goes down to, like you said, that bottom dollar. And so let's go ahead and get into some of the things that we can do. Let's go ahead and talk about that navy bean. So that navy bean, let me see. I see my brother. I might have touched that. Okay. So that navy bean, let's tell us a little bit about the benefits of eating that navy bean. And, how should we eat it? How should we prepare that navy bean?
Well, first and foremost, I'm gonna give you I'm gonna start with the surface and I'm gonna take it down to the root.
Okay.
If you read books 1 and 2, especially book 1, where he talks about the navy bean in depth, he talks about, if you start your child off on the navy bean soup from infancy, they will live to be up to 240 years old. Now, that bean is very powerful. It's the very bean that Daniel asked for him and his followers in the prison of Nebuchadnezzar to protect him and his followers. And while they were dealing with what they were dealing with, from a biological perspective, the navy bean contains all 9 essential amino acids necessary for the human body. When I say 9 essential amino acids, these are the amino acids needed from food that your body does not produce on its own. So the only thing the body needs to be complete is that small white navy bean. Once it has that navy bean, it's a wrap. You don't have to do anything else. Just go ahead and start consuming the navy bean soup as taught and produced by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Stop making remixed navy bean soups. You got the turkey legs and the rice, and all that extra stuff. Stick to the original recipe and do it exactly as he prescribed, when he prescribed, between 4 and 6 for adults, and and I think it's 2 meals for children, and if they're babies, puree it and have them eat that as a soft consistency. And for the rest of their lives, for most of their childhood, they probably won't ever see any issues with diseases. I didn't.
So you say start a child. What's an early age that you can start feeding that to your child?
Well, of course, you still want the baby to be breastfed.
Yes.
One of the things I've noticed when I spoke to pediatricians was that it's best to, and I'm not going to tell you a specific age.
Okay.
Time frame is infancy, when you start being able to feed them with spoons and stuff like that. At that particular point is where you can start feeding them the pureed version of the soup.
Yes.
Blended, or however you want to do it, as long as it's at a liquid or mushy consistency like Gerber or whatever.
Right. Pureed, like you said.
Right.
So, yeah, go right ahead.
Oh no, go ahead, bro.
Yeah. So one of the things that we have in the navy bean, and that we may all, of course, know once we eat it, is that it has fiber in it. Because it definitely has us, regular. But however, I don't think that people know that if you eat it consistently on a more consistent basis, maybe the first time you might feel, the weight of it. But then after you eat it on a consistent basis, your body begins to process it a little better. Is that right?
We have the navy bean has something that called dietary fiber. So there are different types of fibers. Dietary fiber is the fiber that the body uses to help control insulin levels and to help control high cholesterol and high blood pressure. Now, how does it help how does it help control insulin levels? So if you understand the pancreas is a gland. It's not actually an organ. It's a very big gland. And this pancreas has cells on the surface of it called beta cells. These beta cells secrete a product called insulin. Every time you eat, insulin attacks the food and makes glucose from it. So say, for example, right, I'm putting gas in my car, and my car is using the gas as energy. So when you eat, the pancreas uses your food as energy. That makes sense?
Yes.
So whenever I'm eating something and I'm eating the right foods, like the navy bean, and insulin notices the navy bean, is like, great, this is great, this is what I needed. So I'm going to use this to provide your body with energy. Now, if you're eating sugary foods, if you're eating fast foods all the time, your pancreas sees that and it sends out the insulin. The insulin is like, wait, hold up, you know, this is not going to work. I can't use all of this to give you energy. Some of this stuff is going to be left over and cause issues in the body. I need all of it. The insulin needs all of it. The best thing to do is to have that navy bean for the insulin to be that's food that it can properly absorb into your bloodstream. So that's how it helps diabetes. It keeps the sugar levels down. And if the pancreas recognizes foods that it can work with, you know, it won't cause any issues with your body. It'll be nothing but a benefit to you.
All right. And so tell us a little bit about the antioxidants that are in the navy bean.
Right. Antioxidants. So some of the antioxidants are found in the amino acids, like your leucine, your tryptophan, some of the other names escape me, but they'll come back. But these amino acids, some of them serve as antioxidants. And antioxidants is something that keeps cells from oxidizing or getting weak and dying off. So that's one of the things that helps to combat radiation. Radiation oxidizes the cells. So think of the navy bean as a giant boardroom of people controlling a company. None of them work independently of the company. They all work together. So whenever the navy bean is entered into the body and the body's using that navy bean, it's a myriad of things, a whole bunch of things in that bean that helps to prevent the negative effects of radiation. It helps with whatever it begins to do for diabetes, heart disease, cancer of that nature. All these things work together. Now, one of the things specifically that helps with radiation is the iron level. If you go to the dentist, right?
Yes.
They put a lead jacket over you to keep the radiation from affecting you, right? Well, iron is a close relative to lead when it comes to the periodic table of elements. And when you have a good amount of iron in you and you have a good amount of those non-essential amino acids, they all work together to coat the cells and to keep the cells from breaking down. Because that's what you're dealing with radiation. You're dealing with the cells breaking down in the body and causing issues like cancer or whatever else that happens to you. So those are the team of substances in the navy bean that work to protect you from radiation.
And when we're talking about radiation, I think that I don't want people to think, you know, they're looking at some like power plant. When we're talking about radiation or these, these EMFs, we're talking about, I'm sitting in front of this computer and it's emitting these electromagnetic frequencies. We got smart meters, we got our smartphone, our microwave. There's a whole myriad of ways that we're being bombarded by radiation.
Absolutely. It's all like I was saying, it's a money game. You know,
right?
The devil is so simple. It's not fun. We overthink.
Right.
Our enemy. We tell it, oh, what's he doing here? What's he got going on here? Maybe he's doing this to me. You up here thinking about it and you're scrolling on your phone. He's doing it right there. You don't stop trying to overcomplicate the devil. We don't know the depth of his madness. That's extremely true. But that depth can be so simple, it's not even funny.
Yeah.
It can be so simple. So let's stop overcomplicating him. He knows how to get you when he want to get you.
Right. And it's the same trick it's really no, like you said, it's the same trick, just morphed or modernized, you know what I'm saying? For instance, the slavery, So you have slavery, then it morphed into sharecropping, then chain gangs. Now the prison industrial complex is still slavery.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then even, you know, the wages that we get, these are slave wages, but now he's masked it. You know what I mean? He doesn't know that you're a slave. And as the most honorable Elijah Muhammad said, debt is slavery. So
absolutely.
Talk about the potassium that's in it, because I know that a lot of people need potassium. Talk a little bit about that as well.
Absolutely. So potassium and magnesium are two minerals, two important minerals in the Navy beam. When we're dealing with the electrical power of the brain, the electrical power of the heart, potassium and magnesium are extremely important in making sure that those particular aspects of our bodies are intact. You know, because without the firing power of our nerves and the firing power of our muscles, you know, there's a lot of things that just won't take place. The heart itself is a giant muscle. So when you look at you know, heart disease and heart attacks, if I have an abnormal heart rhythm because my magnesium is low or my potassium is low, then you're going to start dealing with problems with, you know, your natural pacemaker inside the heart, which is your AV node. And this AV node allows your heart to beat in a certain rhythm. And if it beats off rhythm, you start to feel in your chest, you start feeling lightheaded because the rhythm is off. You know, so magnesium and potassium are very important, as well as there's something else, and it's on the tip of my tongue that the potassium does. But those are the two. Those two are the main minerals when it comes to the electrical power that your brain and your heart have.
Right. And so when we eat that Navy bean, basically, you know, if we're sick and suffering from some of these, what are some of the things that the Navy bean can get us back on track if we're off track with?
Right. Well, it really just depends on the severity of your condition. Like if your heart is at the point where it's approaching heart failure, and now you need or if you have atrial fibrillation, which is also known as AFib, where you're having like I was saying before, an abnormal heart rhythm, and your AV node or the little electrical pulse between the top of the heart and the bottom of the heart is out of whack, then you become the heart becomes just a beating. It just starts beating when the muscle starts beating out of sync and out of rhythm. So it really just depends on the severity of it. If it's to the point where your doctor's like, okay, this can be fixed, it's not life-threatening, it's not to the point where it's life-threatening, then you can use the Navy bean as a source to help, you know, get your heart back into a good rhythm. But if it's to the point where it needs further treatment, do the treatment, but also get on that Navy bean as much as possible. And you can watch that the medication become useless, or you have to take less of it because now you're doing the right type of nutritional intervention to help your heart.
Yes, sir. And so
and I apologize because there's a lot more information when it comes to that, but for some reason it's just I have to go back and go over my notes again, but there's a lot to it. And we can do a part 2 if you want.
I absolutely want to get you back on here to do a part 2. I want to talk about because the big thing right now is alkaline body. But as we know, there has to be some type of balance.
Yeah. Right. And I was just talking to somebody about that. They were showing me all the alkaline water that they had, in their house. And I was like, that's great. It's good to have alkaline water, but alkaline water is really a diagnostic test. If you feel better after you drink alkaline water, then you have a problem. But you don't want your body to be alkaline. You want your body to be neutral. And you want your body to be, if your body's alkaline, you are dead. That can kill you. And if your body's acidic, that can kill you. You want your body to have a balance. Balance is key. So
Right.
you and I both know the stomach has its own acid, hydrochloric acid, and a
Yes.
myriad of other acids. So when we're drinking alkaline water all the time, we're starting to put a damper on the acids that we have in our stomachs. So when we go to eat food, we're not going to digest the foods properly because you weaken the acid. It needs the acid. So when you find yourself on this 100% alkaline diet and you're having digestive issues all of a sudden, that's why.
Right.
Because you're not, there's no balance in your body. Your body's like, oh, alkaline, well, I need the acid, you know? The acid is not what's hurting you. When you eat the wrong foods and make the acid go bonkers, that's what's hurting you. The acid is fine. We need all that, you know? So I would be very careful. I would say to anyone constantly on alkaline water, be very careful. That's not the type of water you should be drinking. Spring water, you know, purified water when you have a choice. But spring water is best for you, as taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Yes, yes. Thank you, brother. That's beautiful. I just wanted to, before you go, I just wanted to talk a little, if you could say a little bit about the antibiotics, right? Because antibiotics is not just what we're getting from the doctor, but antibiotics is also in the meat that, you know, they use to raise these cattle. So now we're hearing about super bugs, you know, where there is no type of antibiotic that can treat these bugs. I think gonorrhea is a sexually transmitted disease that in some cases can't be cured with antibiotics. This is terrifying. Can you say a little bit about antibiotics and how they, I guess, destroy the good gut bacteria?
Right. Well, antibiotics by definition, anti against biotic meaning life. Antibiotics are substances that they produce to quote unquote eliminate unwanted biological substances from your digestive system. Now, it's also unwanted in their definitions is like, so any medication really is designed to get you dependent on it. So if I'm an antibiotic and I am being used in the digestive system, you know, I am attacking anything I see that represents life.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm going after the natural gut floras that's at the bottom of your stomach or on the lining of the wall of your stomach. I'm going after those things because that's what the antibiotic was meant to do. So if you want something that functions as an antibiotic to help get your gut flora under control, the navy bean is best. That dietary fiber is best. Those are better substances to use to do what you are taking the antibiotic for, not what they created it to do. You know, so in terms of, and what was the second part of your question? I'm sorry.
No, that was basically it. I mean, it's just what, you know, because they destroy that good gut bacteria. So, you know, we're given these antibiotics by the doctor. What I mean, you know, what should we do? I mean, I know we should probably go ahead and take them. If I don't know what would you.
So antibiotics, if you're taking antibiotics, you 9 times out of 10 you have a problem that's easy to correct or simple to correct. You know, you don't need antibiotics. What you need are foods that help to promote good flora in the gut and eliminate the bad that may come from the foods that you just ate. So we need to understand that gut flora and the microbes that line the gut are good for you. What you need is something that would make sure that it stays good for you. The only reason you're taking antibiotics is because of the foods that you eat. You may have a genetic condition where it turns your immune system against you, because all of that is part of your immune system. So if you have a genetic condition that's part of and your immune system is compromised and your gut health starts to affect you, then you need to start eating foods that will promote good gut health and in turn health for the human body, because most of chronic diseases start right there.
Right. And so I won't hold you anymore. I mean, but I would love to have you back on, because I want to get in with you into more of a controversial somewhat subject, and that is these phthalates, the bisphenol A, these hormone inhibitors that are in our food that some say causes this gender confusion that we see going on. So I would love to talk more with you about these chemicals that are in our food that we see being banned in European countries, but that they are allowed here.
Right.
So
well, I would definitely love to talk about that. Absolutely.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Definitely. So with that, with the closing, is there anything that you would like to say as we close on out, talking about the science of the Navy bean and boosting our immune system?
Yes, sir. Don't sleep on the Navy bean. Don't sleep on it. Don't we give up before we allow it to work. The Navy bean, when we come out of a diet, when we come out of the enemy's diet and we go into Allah's diet, I'm not gonna say Allah's diet, but you're inheriting a torn up system. So we have to understand that it's gonna take some work to properly get your body back to what it's supposed to be, depending on how bad your body really is, from its proper state. Then it's gonna take some work. Don't give up. Just because you don't see a drastic difference in 2-3 weeks doesn't mean it's not working.
Right.
You always see something improving when you're constantly eating the way you should be eating. It's gonna always be an improvement. It may not all come at once or when you want it to, but remember it's work. It's a process.
Right. It's a process. And talking about process, how to prepare it. How should we soak it? I hear some, soak it in baking soda. But what's that process to get it ready to eat?
Yeah, so you only add baking soda if you want to eliminate more of the gas, and make it a little bit more easier on the gut. But it's not. It's real simple. Soak it overnight, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us to. And if you want, you can look up. If you want to watch somebody prepare it, go to YouTube and type in Akila Nihanda. She's a sister out of Houston, Texas. She produced a good video on how to produce Navy bean soup. You literally watch her do it, and she'll explain to you how the soup should be prepared. But don't stop adding. Once you get the recipe and you get the instructions, don't add extra stuff to it. Don't put your rice in it, your turkey legs, all that other unnecessary stuff. It's not necessary.
That's right. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you coming on, and all praises due to Allah. And like I said, I would love to have you back to go to deep dive into some of these other health issues, to give us a more clear understanding of what's going on. So I'll go ahead and begin to close on out, and I'll be right with you in a few minutes.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
And so, brothers and sisters, I would like to thank you all for tuning in to Black Narrative. We have in the future, we're going to be talking to the Minister of Health, Brother Nathaniel Jordan. We're also going to be talking to a young woman who is going to talk about water. And this is unbelievable, brothers and sisters. When she talks about water, you won't believe how contaminated your and my drinking water is. And then when you think you're escaping the drinking water by filtering it, think about you taking a shower in this water, and this body, this organ, this skin being the major organ of absorbing these forever chemicals and fluoride and so many other chemicals that are in our water. So with that, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, and may God continue to bless you and your family with the light of truth and understanding. And we're just going to get into, of course, promoting the #1 program that we should all have, because you know the mainstream media is lying to you, and that's the Final Call newspaper. God bless.
Now you can get the same uncompromising truth you've come to expect from the Final Call newspaper on all your connected devices. Subscribe to the Final Call Digital Edition today. Go to subscribe.finalcalldigital.com.